But mainly what I did is I'm breaking down first, how does humans relate to work and responsibility? Okay, on a more personal level, psychological level, philosophical level. Like, what does work means for us? Like, why do we need work? Why is work so fundamental for the structure of societies, for well-being, for happiness, for collaboration? So this is the first part of my research. Then after that, it starts to get really blurred, because as soon as you start to talk about work, you start to talk about recompensation. So receiving something in return for work. So it becomes economical very quickly. So then the second part of my research is, how does work relate to material goods and to money? Okay. And then the third part of my research is the bullshit part, in the sense of how the hell did we got lost, and what the fuck happened along the way, and how did it got so perverted, and how come we're in such deep shit today regarding our relationship to work. Okay, so these are the three main chapters of the conversation that I would like to structure. How do we relate to work on a very personal, sociological, philosophical level? How does work relate to recompensation, material goods, and economy? And then what the hell went wrong? Okay, so this is the basic 3 points. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. Yep, definitely.
Cool.
Cool.
So the first one is that, on a very, very basic level, work is to us a matter of confidence and responsibility. Why confidence and responsibility? Because work mainly is it's a social aspect of behavior. Like, you can do work for yourself. You can, I know, build your own house, and harvest your own vegetables, and fabricate your own clothes and stuff like that. But mainly work, as we interpret it socially, it's a matter of exchanging. Like, I'm very good at this trade, I'm gonna do this, and then you're good at something else, we're going to exchange that. And when we talk about work, there's a deep meaning of responsibility and confidence. Why? Because if somebody delegates a work for you, and they say, Arik is really good at procuring partners, to grow our networks, and bullshit. Okay, so I trust Arik. I trust Arik to be the network guy and the bullshit guy. So that immediately is going to create in Arik a sense of confidence. Like, if Diego believes I'm good at network and bullshit, I must be good at network and bullshit, right? So work has a very mirror-like effect, where other delegate a responsibility or entrust us with a responsibility, and we immediately believe our capacity to deliver against such responsibility, because we believe the other guy that delegated the responsibility to me knows me better than I know myself. Like, we can start from this level of distrust, but in the moment somebody hires you to do a job, you feel confident of your capability, because somebody else is telling you that you can do it. So there's a very fundamental level of creating a sense of confidence and responsibility towards being delegated with doing something that we call work. So
this is interesting, because that varies culturally. If you look at management systems around the world, it's quite different. I mean, the Swedish way of managing people is quite flat, which has its own problems. But then if you look at the UK, for example, it's very much top down. People don't do anything, even though they're, unless they're told. So it's a cultural thing, and it's different management styles that also affect people's experience of work, and So just I thought I'd add that
but I think your point builds on the idea, because like you said, this top-down approach to jobs, it goes back to our relationship with heroes and leaders. You read this book, like The Hero of a Thousand Faces. We have been constantly trapped into this cycle of finding these superior figures, these figures of authority. These figures of authority retroactively make us aware or self-aware of our responsibility and our capability, because they delegate these works. They represent this figure of moral highness that we should aspire to become.
Yeah, but there is another aspect for this theory, because some of the research I've been doing on on intelligence, and I'm reluctant of using the word artificial intelligence.
Yep.
Because if you go back in history, we like to talk about AI these days, but if you go back in history, I start with talking about Talos, which, the Greek giants, which we created to protect our assets, but also to cover our assets. And I think it we can apply that to a certain type of leadership and managerial roles today that we tend to follow because, hey, we have an us protecting us above us.
That's true,
right?
Yeah.
And I know I'm jumping maybe a little bit to the things that went wrong, but I listened to what you said, I listened to what Trevor said, and I completely agree with both of you if you put it into two different time frames.
Yeah, two different moments.
I'm taking a course now on the history of food because of you, by the way.
Nice.
And I went back all the way to, the course starts,
agriculture.
Yeah, even before that,
Harvester and collectors.
Exactly. And the labor of work to create the value of food is one of the first labors we put forward as human beings.
Yep.
And the societal aspect of that was what pushed the food industry to where it is today, like it or don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a certain societal responsibility when we worked for food that unfortunately we don't see today. But we don't see the societal responsibility in most working places.
And it's super interesting that you mentioned. I think, I don't remember in which book I read it. I think it was Sapiens, the first one from this guy from Yassal, Giovanni, something like that.
Yuval Harari.
Yuval Harari.
Yeah. So there's a very nice story in there that he says that the first hunter-gatherers that make the shift into formal agriculture or static agriculture, their mindset was something like, so if I can produce more food, I can stay here longer and I don't have to move as much. And that led to families growing larger and settlements growing larger. So in return, they had to produce even more food to feed more people because they were static longer. And like this cycle of, yes, you can also become a slave to your own work because in the end, your own productivity is going to create empty time and that empty time is going to create a need. And that need is going to transform into consumption, and consumption is going to require more production. So you see, it's like this vicious cycle that grew from the very beginning of agriculture to what we are today. Is this sense that we produce more in bulk, in more effective ways to have more free time, and in return, free time gives us more opportunity to desire more and consume more, which requires us to produce even more.
And this is very much connected to value, and I find it very hard to talk about what is the future of work without understanding what's the history of value and how value evolved to how we look at it today versus to what it was meant to be when it all started. And the ideas of collaboration in order to produce a certain type of value, even so it was survivable value like food, doesn't really exist anymore today. And it's not part of our culture of perceiving what is work or what is labor.
Yeah. So I would take following on these points. I would take a step a little bit back. Yeah. So our species, we are what we are when we actually developed into Homo sapiens. We developed we developed the capacity to imagine, okay? And this brought with it three very important systems that are still working today. So it's the religious system, so the system of belief, the capacity to imagine that there's a superior being, the capacity to the political system, which is the capacity to imagine that there's a ruler and there's
the power of institutions.
Yeah, exactly, and leaders and stuff. And the economic system, which we attribute value to money, okay? And there is a double effect. At the point when we managed, I don't know the exact dates, but when we developed this capacity, it was 150,000 million years ago. No, sorry, 150,000 years ago. And and I don't know exactly the point at where we developed agriculture, but the coupling of these two ideas, that's when we developed the first cities, okay? So before that, we were nomads, and then we became sedentaries. And before that, the Homo erectus and the Homo neanderthal, they didn't manage to create big enough groups to create those robust systems. So after we had this capacity to imagine, so we have money, we have gods, and we have politicians. Now we can establish cities. And this, with agriculture, we don't need to move around anymore. We have safe cities, and we have clans and guilds.
And food.
And of course, food. And this is where the actual, I think that's the birth of the word work. Because before that, we were just survivors.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
It was more instinct.
Roaming around.
So before, I would say before that, because I'm constantly going back to economic theories, and there is I like the differentiation between work and labor. So yes, that was the birth of work. Before that, there was labor.
And
Because
then,
it was purpose-driven. It was not just for you to put food on your table. It was for a higher purpose of driving something forward.
exactly. And then many years later, on ancient Greece, Plato, he wrote a small book called The Republic, where he imagined
Very smooth.
a very small book. Yeah. So yeah, actually, the 10 books of that form the Republic, it's in there. It's one of the works in there. And so in the Republic, the Republic is a book about justice. Okay, that's basically it. In the beginning of the book, Plato uses Socrates as a fictional figure, and he uses him as a character, and Socrates he uses Socrates for various reasons. One of them is because he was believed to be one of the wisest person alive in the world there. So he uses him to tell his story. And it's essentially in the beginning of the Republic, Socrates is walking around in Athens, and some guards get him and tell him, "Look, there's this aristocrat that wants to talk to you, and he demands that you join him for dinner." Okay, and they take Socrates and take him to dinner, and that's the whole Republic. It's just like 12 guys talking. A long ass dinner.
It was the first podcast. The first podcast ever, but nobody recorded it.
Yeah,
They took some notes though.
Yeah, they took some good notes. And essentially, it's Socrates talking to a bunch of aristocrats, which are smart and educated and very poetic people, and they talk about justice. But they also, along the way, they talk about love. They talk about
And how to structure a society from scratch.
exactly. They talked about an ideal city. What would be an ideal city and the ideal people. And just to close to bring back the comment to work, they when they discuss this ideal city that is called Callipolis. When they talk about Callipolis, they imagine a system where a city like that could actually work. And in order for that to work, they devise the first ideas of division of labor. So if we five have specialties or talents or capabilities, we don't specialize on 5 things. Each one of us does one thing, and we divide. So, for example, if I'm good at doing shoes, I do shoes for the 5 of us, and I distribute pairs of shoes. And you guys dedicate your time to what you're best at, and that's where like the beginning of specialty began, and that's how craftsmen started to specialize.
So cut there, because I have the next point.
Of course, yeah. That's like
just one comment on that because it's related. It's and it will lead you to the next point. When you're talking about the division of labor, I like this concept of the division of labor because every time we came up with the division of labor, it never held water when a societal change occurred. Yeah. So, which leads to the next point, because we are facing a massive societal transformation right now. So the division of labor as we know it today will simply not hold water because it's anchored in a very, very outdated infrastructure.
100%, Eric. And I think this is going to be one of the main topics of conclusion. And I think just by listening to the conversation, I think what we should do is let's spend this first podcast on the first topic, which is the relationship between humans and work, which is more about the history, the origin of work, the origin of labor. And then on the second one, we can go on the relationship between work and money. And then on the third one, we can go into the next topic, which is what went wrong. Of course, all of them, they're very much interconnected. But just to go to the next point, and you see, why is this counterintuitive and so dated? Okay, so if this started in the Republic, this idea of segregating labor by specialty for the sake of efficiency, okay,
Yeah.
how outdated is this idea? Because we live in the era of waste. You know, we are overproducing everything. We have more food than we can consume. We just throw it away because it's too costly to distribute it around the world. And we have higher obesity in countries like Mexico, which is a developing country, than in countries like the United States, which is insane. And then at the same time, you have hunger and scarcity in Africa. And at the same time, you throw away 3 football stadiums of fresh food every day in the United States of America, which is ridiculous. So what we started in the Republic, this idea of we should segregate labor by efficiency in order to be able to provide to all our needs, it's an extremely outdated idea, which doesn't make any sense anymore. It's an idea that just works for surplus value. It just works because iPhone, you know, they create this false sense of scarcity by inflation of market, but in reality, they didn't sell all the iPhones 11 they produced. They threw them away in order not to deflate the price and to flood the market with cheap goods. So, you know, like this very stupid old idea that we have to spend all our lives dedicated to one craft because we're good at it for the sake of productivity is not only stupid, it's outdated. And it leads me exactly into my next. It leads me exactly into my next point, which is something that is from Nietzsche, is the idea that we should work like children, in the sense that our interests they jump. You know, like I'm good at making shoes. I don't want to make shoes like 7 days a week all my life. You know, like maybe if I choose to and I become super obsessed with the idea, then I can become. But this is almost counterintuitive. It's contra natura. You know, as when we're children, we dream of being astronauts. We dream of being garbage men. We dream of being football players. We dream of being cooks. And every time we play and pretend we're something. And we can jump and be completely obsessed and completely dedicated for one day to one task. And then the next day we're fascinated by gardening. And you know, like, and we're not taught to nourish to this very intrinsic human characteristic of being a Renaissance man. No, we are being taught that we are pieces in a tool, we are gears in an engine, that we're supposed to do one job, one ridiculous, reductive job, with the best way, the most effective way we can. And this led to a burned out society.
Yeah, I think a lot of the models we're using are there to create efficiency within economy rather than productivity within the self. And that's the challenge we have, because you're touching another issue here, which is the issue of education. And one thing that we started to talk about last week, we talked about creativity as a currency. In order to use creativity as a currency, we need to define the horizontal plane of creativity. Only by doing that, we can create the diversity of various impacts that one individual can bring forward the society is engaging with. It's very easy today and this is, you know, I often use the Caesar crossing the Rubicon analogy of who is defining the next stage of human evolution. Right now, technology is a few steps ahead of us because we have been educated and nurtured to do a repetitive job. It's very easy for technology to take over. Even our creativity is designed according to repetitive systems, methods. And that is something we need to break. What is the horizontal plane of creativity in order not to create Renaissance people right now as it is to start with, but to diverse the impact that we have on the societal structures that we interact with.
So a small comment on this, on education. The thing is that the universities, the original idea of the university has been destroyed, has been prostituted. Originally, universities, well, actually, they began also in Greece. Well, the proto idea of a university.
The lycée, no?
And it was about the School of Athens, it was Lyceum was from Aristotle. I forgot the name. Well, the School of Athens was from Plato. Essentially, it was a place to explore your intellectual curiosities, okay, and advance research, okay. Today, as you well said, Eric, they're essentially machines to fabricate workers, specialized workers. And why is that? Because the market rewards it. Of course, what Plato imagined, I mean, his shortcomings, I mean, the mere fact that we're talking about a work that was written 2,200 years ago, it's amazing. But still, he missed a lot of things. Sadly, I mean, it's kind of a shame to criticize his work, but he didn't imagine the world with 7 billion people on it.
That's
okay,
Different world.
exactly. The sheer scale of numbers, the sheer scale of waste. He couldn't imagine that. I mean, Athens was the city with the most people in the world, and I believe it was like 100,000 people, something like that. And without the envy and the need and the massive desires that we carry today, the people back there, they were simple people. They didn't want a yacht. They didn't want that. Didn't exist. Those massive ideas that exist today. And the idea that we are entitled to have all the riches in the world because we can see it online. We can see. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but a kid in Africa that manages to get a phone or a pamphlet or a screen, he can see TV
or a shoe,
or even worse, the internet. If a kid gets access, he can see how people live in Dubai, how people have Ferraris in Italy, how people have yachts in Monaco, and that creates a disgusting sense of inferiority, and the kids are gonna say, why can't I have that? So their desire from here goes to here, and now they want, and multiply that times billions of people, and there is no, I mean, I that's a good challenge for our team. Let's imagine an ideal society with 7 billion people. That's a good challenge. How can people, I mean, because the desires and needs and wants of someone back in those ages compared to desires and needs and wants of someone in this age, it's a rupture.
And it's also
but
sustainable.
these days, desire is manufactured.
And this is not
manufactured these days, rather than something which is organic. It's not something which we create ourselves, desire. It's something which is forced upon us.
Of course, yeah. It's forced upon us by society, by
I've worked in marketing for the last 25 years, so I know. My job is to sell shit to people and to make them believe it's going to give them the life and the lifestyle that they've always wanted.
Yeah. Shadows. We sell shadows.
But you see, I think one thing that is interesting about what Mateus mentioned and what you said is we can't all have yachts. You know, like, you know the sheer amount of resources and time it's implied behind a yacht?
Yeah, of course.
You know, like, can you imagine if everyone had like a 60-foot yacht? Where the fuck will we park them? Like, we were gonna run out of beaches to park them. You know, like, in the sense of, like, even if you take a step back, cars, if everybody has a car, cities will be stuck.
7 billion,
You know, like, you can measure, and this is a calculation you can actually make. I remember that when I was living in Brazil, there was a study that by the year 2030, the average speed in São Paulo was going to be 0 kilometers per hour. Why? Because they said that if we keep selling cars and if everybody keeps acquiring new cars and everybody gets out of their garages at the same time, the length of a vehicle multiplied by the number of inhabitants versus the meters of streets, it's less. We have less streets than the length of cars. So nobody's going to be able to drive.
Yeah, of course.
So you know, it leads to another point which we mentioned before, is that, you know, what is the gateway we need to create and pave the way towards a shareholder economy, not a shared economy, but a shareholder economy. And I think one of the things that cities needs to understand today is, you know, how can they evolve the current system of education and work towards an holistic system that is there to solve cities' challenges to generate GDP, to invest in tomorrow's intellectual prosperity, and so on.
Okay. So,
And I think this is some of the missing pieces that we don't have today.
Yeah.
Now we tend to think about. We published an article today on the Dead Rabbit Society, and we talk about what is the necessary skills that we need to teach our kids to scale into a future. And we are talking about critical thinking, analytical thinking, creativity, originality, the ability to solve complex problems, emotion, and passions. But if you look about through histories, it's the same fucking abilities you needed all across history to survive. But these abilities required new frameworks. People need to understand that you don't use bricks the same way you use code. You have to move from managing profit to managing for impact. Yeah. You need to you need to measure experience by the quality of choices, not by the number of functions. And these ideas, what will determine, the framework for any future of work that we can bring forward. That's the focus that we should bring, and I think that's hell of a focus we're going to have, at least on the Monterey conference.
Yeah, but it brings up an extreme paradox, an extreme contradiction that it's contradictory within itself. So just to close, so the first chapter was these 4 points. It was first, how do we relate to work in terms of confidence and responsibility? The second one is that it's counterintuitive in a way because we are curious about different skills, so we should remember that we are related to work like children. The third one is that in a way, historically, the way we relate to work has reached a limit of productivity. So we know that it's not anymore a matter of capacity to produce and satisfy basic needs. It just became obscene. It's just a matter of repetition of consumption. And then the fourth one is that work should be meaningful. And when most people are obligated to repeat simple, mindless tasks every day, work is not meaningful anymore. It's just something that you have to do because you want to survive. It doesn't have any more meaning. It's just like torture. It's a new form of slavery. But here it creates the biggest paradox of this first chapter, is that how can we design a future of work to survive automation? Because this is going to be the main challenge. How do we survive automation? Because today, if we continue on the path of efficiency and productivity, we know that machines are more capable, better, more efficient, cheaper, and more ownable, and more controllable and easy to administer than we are. So we have everything to lose to automation if we keep focusing the direction of evolution towards productivity and efficiency. Okay, this is what needs to change, because there's no point in changing the education system and making people more creative, more original, more curious, with a different and varied and diverse skill set if there's no job openings. Like, what are we gonna do with 7 billion creative people on Earth? Like, if the job market is not hiring, we're gonna have a bunch of Mozarts playing pianos in the swamp.
That's a problem.
You're saying this is a bad thing?
Maybe, yeah. I'm being slightly optimistic.
No, listen to this. The creative gene is an undesired gene. That's the fact. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Because when you stand out from the crowd, automatically, our species, I don't know why, we attack the people that stand out from the crowd. So this is from Charles Darwin, the survival of the species. The creative gene is being pushed out every year, every 100 years, every 200 years, every 1,000 years, and they're pushed out because here's the problem. It appears to be by design that the aim of our species is to reproduce. I mean, I don't know if it is by design or not, but that's how we work, and that's what has happened historically. If you look at the numbers, we're growing. It's a very basic premise. And in order for those numbers to keep growing, I mean, it's not like someone decided, let's keep growing. Well, maybe, I don't know, the leaders, or I don't know, we have the baby boomer age that they grow. But
maybe
as they were growing, the creative people, because we need efficiency. If to get to where we have gotten, to have this conversation on a computer and have Wi-Fi and stuff, we wouldn't have this if we were like 100 guys, if we were like 200,000, I'm not saying that we needed the 7 billion. is it 7 or 7.5 billion?
Yeah.
I don't know.
7.5.
We're around.
So that's the thing, and the creative was being pushed out because we need some creative people, just as we need some philosophers.
But not all of them.
But not all of them, of course. Because that's the thing, and I'm worried that if we're trying to work against nature, I don't know if this is nature. I don't have the answer, but it's like trying to force a gene. I mean, because natural selection is natural selection, whether we like it or not, whether we believe in it or not. And if the creative gene has been pushed out, it is a liability because, well, there's some genes that are pushed out automatically. For example, the explorer gene. The explorers, it's a very low rate of survivability. If you take it to
get into a ship and you say, I'm going to sail west until I find the edge of the world.
That's a European colonialism. The explorers on European colonialism, I mean, Christopher Columbus, he was a fucking anomaly. He was the lucky guy that came back.
So many people died.
You know, so that was a gene that died. That's why we don't have so many explorers, you know. And maybe the guys that did the paintings on the cavemen that did the paintings, maybe their genes didn't survive so much. But the ones that were gathering and planting
and killing the painters,
those genes stuck, you know. And multiply that times thousands of years, and you get them less and less and less. So it's rare. It's a rare gene, and I mean, in a modest amount of talent, a Renaissance man. I mean, I like to write. I like to do philosophy,
gardening.
I like to garden. I like to cook. I like a little bit of everything. I like enjoying films, but maybe if I didn't like all those things, if I focus on one thing, I would produce more wealth, and the market rewards. So we are going against very strong forces here. If we are saying that, I mean, but I have a richer spirit than a guy that focused on only one thing, you know, because I have many, you know, hobbies, passions, and stuff. So
one of the key takes I get from your comment right now is the gene of the managerial assholes is the superior gene in the market right now, which is fine. And I agree with you, and I think between all of the five of us, we very much understand what does it mean to be ridiculed for
being the outcast, the outliers.
Yes.
Basically, what you're saying that evolution will toss us out.
Yeah,
it's evolution will toss us out, but we have a chance to go back to the days of the Republic and write the Republic of the Misfit. That's where I see the potential that we have in front of us.
Yes, of course. And there's a big moral burden on us. You know why? Because the ones that win the war tell the story. So the people in Silicon Valley, for example, they will never criticize their software. They will never criticize their creation because it's their creation, you know. Jeff Bezos will never. So and this was said by Harari actually on his third book, the 21 Rules for the 21st Century. He says that it is up to the designers, the thinkers, the artists, the poets to criticize the other side, because if not, no one will ever criticize and you know those people. The thing is the sheer amount of power that they have, you know. And it is not in function of intelligence. It is in function of
greed,
brute power,
and greed.
Yeah. And that's the shit part of capitalism in a way, that it rewards the stumping, you know,
the viciousness.
Yeah.
I don't think we are going against capitalism or against socialisms or any other forms of government or governance. I think the idea is to create something new rather go against.
Yeah.
Well,
when you go,
the definition is different. But to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs.
Yeah, and we have a good opportunity right now because apparently Trump is planning to destroy all cultural buildings in Iran. So we can start with building culture.
Let's see. Hopefully we can watch this video in the future and survive. And the internet is still going to be available. Yeah. You know, like Einstein said. He said, like, I don't know what weapons are going to be used to fight World War III, but World War IV is going to be fight with stick and stones.
Sticks and stones.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
But
then,
good, guys. So I think this is a good wrap up. We covered the 4 main points of the first topic, which was the human relation with work and the origin of work. We discussed a little bit about Plato and the Republic. We know that in a way, some of the main driving forces behind work are very outdated. Of course, they have been perverted a lot. In a way, and this is going to be the main topic of our next conversation, is to understand the relationship between work and money. And of course, the system of capital is going to be involved, and this is going to be a very, very interesting part of the conversation. What do you guys think? Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I would like us also to develop the idea of. I'll take off what I pick up what Matteo said. Not creativity as currency, but if we are talking about horizontal plane, then the creativities as currencies.
Yeah.
So, and that is something we need to tackle as well in order to understand the relationship between work and money.
Cool. I agree.
nice.
Brilliant.
Very well. Man,
Catch you guys next time.
Wait. I think
he's talking to us
Nick?
or he's talking to this
Are you
his
talking to
waitress
us?
in
Hear
Cancun?
you.
the
William.
audio. Are you
Trevor?
Trevor?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we
Yes.
can.
Nick,
Yeah,
we cannot
Nick,
hear
we
you.
cannot hear you.
Nick?
Sorry?
Can you hear us?
Now we can hear you.
Hear
Ah,
you.
Say
because
again what you wanted to say.
It looked like you were talking to yourself.
Yeah.
No, it's, my wife was asking a few questions. I was putting you guys.
Your
Sorry about
wife.
that.
Oh, that's an interesting thing. The wives. We haven't spoken about the wives. What's their role on our desire?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm gonna leave a whole podcast for that one. So guys,
Well,
very
well,
nice- very nice
it's no
conversation.
coincidence that we are 5 guys sitting around this conversation
I
right
know.
now, and it's
I felt like such a male chauvinist. We need more women on board.
Yeah,
Like
man.
if we expect to think about the future of work,
There's
we
a
have
bunch
to
of-
we
there's
have
a
to
bunch of-
contemplate the main 51% of it.
yeah.
Cool, guys. So very nice conversation. We'll pick up from chapter 2 next time we discuss. I'm gonna send these points, all of them, even the chapter 2 and chapter 3, on an email, so we can already start like developing ideas about it, and then we can pick up the conversation next time.
I think
Brilliant.
you've done a fantastic job. This is so interesting. So I look forward to read more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Thank you so much, guys.
Brilliant.
Thank
Catch you
guys
later.
for your
Take
time.
care. Always a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
End stream.